Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be talking about a Natasha Denona retro palette dupe. As you probably saw from the thumbnail, don't refer to it again. Leave your guesses down below right now. Which side do you think is the iconic Natasha Denona $69 retro palette, and which side do you think is the Alter Ego Harmony palette that goes for $17? Leave your picks down below. I'm curious to see what you guys think, but I'm pretty sure you have seen Alter Ego go around on YouTube. I've seen a few creators talk about this brand like Ellie Glines, and they were kind enough to send me a few of their products in PR, so I wanted to like compare the two because I have the retro palette. Personally, just my opinion, I do not think Natasha Denona is worth it. I think for her price, her shadows are very mediocre. I honestly don't see the hype. I know her brand is very, very well loved. It's one of the it brands, and she does have like a very strong fan base, but personally for me, the price tag on her shadows is just not worth it. I'm not saying her shadows are bad, but I'm just saying for the price tag that she's putting on it, I just really don't see the hype. So I wanted to do this video coming from someone who actually doesn't really like the Natasha Denona formula. Not that I don't like it, more like I don't think it's worth it. And I want to know your thoughts down below as well, because I personally didn't buy from Makeup Revolution for the longest time because I really did feel like they were just copying other brands, and that's just something I don't stand for. I'm more open to them now as they have kind of strayed away from that. So I would love to know your thoughts on Alter Ego. I personally feel like they are trying to make a dupe for the Natasha Denona palette, but I don't exactly think they're like right out copying it. Just, you know, when you compare the outer packaging, like if I was to see the outer packaging, I wouldn't think that these two are gonna have the same colors. I do think the shades obviously, you know, they're definitely inspired by the retro palette, but I think the layout is different, shade names are different. But yeah, definitely let me know your thoughts down below. And with that being said, let's just go ahead and hop into the comparisons. So before I show you the eye look, let's talk about just the palette on its own. On this side, we have the Natasha Denona retro palette, which goes for $69 USD, and that is almost like $100 in New Zealand. And then we have the Alter Ego Harmony palette on this side that goes for $17 USD. So there is a really big price difference in both palettes. You will see that in the actual packaging itself. If you are familiar with Natasha's palette, her one is in like a plastic. It feels very heavy duty, very high quality. Like it's simple, but like, you know, it's sturdy. Also with Natasha's palette, you can poke out the shadows and you can make your own palette. So there is that customizable aspect with Natasha's palette, and then with Alter Ego, you can't do that because this is just in a cardboard packaging, which like it does feel cheaper if you're comparing, but I don't think it feels cheap if I was just to see this palette on its own. It's very similar to like, you know, ColourPop's cardboard packaging, which I honestly do not mind at all. Like it feels great, but if you're gonna compare, obviously the Natasha one is gonna be higher quality, which you would want it to be higher quality if you're gonna be paying $69 for this, right? And then for size comparison, the Natasha Denona palette is just a little bit longer, but they have the same sort of height, and they both do have mirrors inside as well. Natasha's palette is obviously a bigger palette, also have a mirror as well, but it's just not as big as the retro palette. And then we also have square pans in here as well. And then when you look at them side by side, the layout of the shade is different, but you definitely can match up which shade is duping the shade, if you know what I mean. So really that was just like a quick comparison of the palettes side by side. As you can see how I'm probably holding them, this side is Natasha Denona, this side is Alter Ego. So let me know if you guessed right. And with that being said, let's just go ahead and hop into the tutorial. So we're gonna create a look using the more expensive palette first, Natasha Denona Retro on this eye, and then we'll see if we can recreate it with the Alter Ego Harmony on this eye. So let's hop into it. So I'm gonna first go into the shade Vivian, and we're gonna dust this all over our eyes. I do have eye primer on. I'm using the Kaleidos eye primer, and Vivian is a satin shadow, but I really like the pale pink color that it has because I do want to go for like a softer look. This shade is actually so pretty. I feel like in the pan it looks a little bit more mauvey, but on the eyes I feel like it's a bit more pale mauve pinky. I'm also gonna take that onto my lower lash line. I'm also not used to like filming this eye on camera. This is my good side. I always do this eye off camera. Then I'm gonna move into the shade Nude Mauve. I'm gonna focus this at the outer corners of my eyes. This shade is not too dark, like I could pass this as a transition, so I do want this look to be quite, you know, soft. That's why we're not gonna go too dark with this palette. But just like the name suggests, it is a really pretty nude mauve. Honestly, the shade names in this palette, top tier. There's a shade name called Jude, which is my nickname. It's like my screen name. When I can choose on a game, I'll go with Jude. It's my WeChat. It's my WeChat name. Andy is my brother-in-law's name as well. We're gonna take that same shadow and press it up against our bottom lash line. Then we're gonna take the shade Glitz. This is going to be the all over lid shade. Not all over actually, we're just gonna focus this at the inner third. So this has a mix of like pink and gold reflex. Actually, we'll take the shade Psychedelic and we'll use that to further highlight our inner corners. So I like to take it in the inner corner here and then go under my eye bag. Okay, if I'm being honest guys, these metallics, I don't know. I don't think it's worth the price. For this price point, it's not giving. But essentially that is the eye look completed. Just a nice simple look. This is a look that I personally would create with the palette. So I'm just gonna do my eyeliner and mascara off camera and we'll recreate it with the $17 Dupe palette. I am gonna go in with the Alter Ego eyeshadow base. They sent me this, so I thought, why not try it with the palette as well? It does come with a little applicator, so I'm just gonna apply a little bit to my eye and then I'll tap it out with my finger. This kind of does remind me a little bit of the Kaleidos one actually. Like it does cover up some darkness on my eyes. So we'll see how this all works. But yes, so let's go into the Harmony palette. I'm gonna take the shade Nurture and this would probably be the most similar to Vivian. I'm gonna take that all over my lids and right off the bat, like when you swatch it, Vivian and Nurture is completely different. Vivian is much more pale, but this one is a little bit darker and more mauve. But they both have that like satin finish to them. And this is my first time using this palette and anything from Alter Ego, so it's like strictly at first impressions. And I think for the satin finish, it's not as satin-like as Natasha Denona. I think Natasha's palette goes on a lot more satin-like. Like it just has that impact. We're also gonna take that onto our lower lash line as well. Then we're gonna go into the shade Tender, which I think would be the most equivalent to a Nude Mauve. And again, that's just gonna go at the outer corner. This is a complete matte. I think this looks pretty similar to Nude Mauve, just on the eyes. I actually kind of like this matte much more than Natasha's. And I know Natasha's known for having like the best mattes. Okay, I think the satin shadow, Natasha won. The matte shadow, I like this so much more. We're gonna test this on the lower lash. Gonna press that up against my bottom waterline at the center and then flare it out. Thing is, I always forget to put eyeshadow primer on my lower lash line, which I totally should because I put a lot of shadow on my lower lash. So the shadow does perform differently on my lower lash line, I feel, especially because like it's my waterline, it's close to like my watery eyes. But let's move on to the metallic and see which one is better. I honestly think Alter Ego will be better because I was not impressed with the Natasha side. I'm gonna go in with Chorus, which I think is the most similar to Glitz. It has that pink and gold reflect. Okay, shade wise, I think Chorus has a little bit more gold than pink. As for intensity, This one is more intense. It has the little micro glitters that you can see. Not the same shade though. This one definitely is much more gold. The Natasha one has more pink and gold. This one is leaning pretty gold. We're then gonna go into Charity, which I think would be similar to Psychedelic. We're gonna use this in the inner corners. I am gonna go in with True, which is the matte creamy white, and I'm just gonna place that right on top just to enhance it a little bit. Just gonna put it on top like this. And True would be comparable to Mod from the Retro palette. And I did use that a little bit off camera just to enhance the baegel style. And that is pretty much all the eyeshadow. I'll quickly just show you what I do for my eyeliner. So taking the Can Make Creamy Touch eyeliner in number 1, I'm going to use this to tightline my upper lash line. Just turning the eyeliner around to create my wing. And then I took my eyebrow powder mixed with Sense, which is probably most similar to maybe Grow, just to smudge that wing out. But to finish the look, I thought while we're here, I could try some of their matte liquid lipsticks. This is from Alter Ego, and I think I'll go in with this shade called Crush. I'm just gonna diffuse it out with a brush because I don't want that liquid lipstick kind of look. I want it to look a little bit more blotted. It does smell a little bit chemically, but I don't think it looks that drying once I diffuse it out with a lip brush. This is probably how I would wear it. I think it's a really nice shade. This is a very me type of raspberry rose that I love. And here are just the side-by-side comparisons between both palettes. I did just want to mention that with the Alter Ego swatches, the palette doesn't really swatch well. You can feel such a big difference compared to the Natasha Retro palette. But I think what matters most is how it performs on the eye. And also, I did take it onto my Instagram and TikTok to ask which side looks more expensive. And as you can see here, more than 70% on both platforms said the Alter Ego side. So here we have the final look completed. On one side we have the Natasha Denona Retro palette, and on the other side we have the Alter Ego Harmony palette. What do you guys think? Which side do you prefer more? I think from afar, honestly, you can't tell that I'm using two different palettes, but I think up close you definitely can see a slight difference, especially with the metallic shadows. But I think overall the Alter Ego Harmony palette is a pretty good dupe for the Retro palette from Natasha Denona. So if you've been looking for a good comparison, I definitely would recommend it. But then again, I only used it once for this one eye look, and it is a very simple eye look. I used about 5 shades in total, so I'm only saying this based off a first impressions. But for me personally, as someone that doesn't like get the hype on Natasha Denona eyeshadows, I definitely think Alter Ego is a really great alternative. And they did offer me a affiliate code, so I think I will sign up for that and get you guys that discount. So if you want to shop with my code, I will leave it down below, but it is probably going to be an affiliate code. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm recommending Alter Ego because of the commission code. As of me right now filming, I don't even have the code. I wanted to wait to see how the palettes perform before getting an affiliate code with them. And if I did like it, I would go forward with it, and now that I have tried it, I'm quite happy. And honestly, I like their liquid lipstick as well. The eye primer seems pretty good too, so I think overall, like, I'm pretty happy with Alter Ego. So I'll have that code for you guys. I'll make sure it's set up for you if you want to shop. But again, I would love to know your thoughts down below. Did you guess it right? $69, $17, what do you guys think? And let me know if you want to see maybe a part 2, because they did send me 4 other palettes, which I believe are dupes as well. So I have the Canon palette, also the Shadow Kiss palette. This one is called Luster. I don't know if this is a Natasha dupe. This kind of looks like maybe Pat McGrath. I'm not too sure. And then lastly we have Artemis. This is definitely a Natasha palette. So yeah, definitely let me know if you guys want to see like a part 2. Which palette should I do next? I will go and get the Natasha palette for you guys and do a comparison just for you. So let me know down below. But essentially that does conclude today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always. I love you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!